You want beef stew, but you don't want to do it in a slow cooker? Let's get it on the drum smoker. I'll show you how.
And welcome back to Heat of the Drum. Today we're doing beef stew on the drum smoker. And I'm going to show you how we do that. What I have here is a 4.1 pound chuck roast. We're going beefy today. This is going to be the star of the show. So what I like to do is just kind of take a look at it and see if there's any like heavily excessive fat on the outside that I need to chop off. And I'll tell you what, this one looks good as is. So what I normally like to do, just to keep this thing from separating and falling apart, is I always put a string around it. So that's what I'm going to do right now. Just going to grab a piece of string, something that looks like it's long enough, like that. We'll flip this baby on its side. And we'll just do a simple knot. Like that. Okay, let's talk about this rub we're going to put on this chuck roast. This is one I like to use on steaks. I like to use it on chuck roast especially. So what I have here is 2 teaspoons of kosher salt, 4 teaspoons of coarse ground pepper, 1 teaspoon of ground oregano, 2 teaspoons of minced onion, 1 teaspoon of crushed red pepper, and 2 teaspoons of granulated garlic. Now let's get all that combined. And we'll get that mixed up. And when you're done, it's going to look something like that. Okay, let's get this seasoned up now. First, I'm going to decide what's going to be the top and what's going to be the bottom. I think this is going to be the bottom, so we're going to go ahead and start there. And we'll just pat it in as we go. Let's get rid of a little bit of that string that's on there. A little windy today. We'll do our best. Go back and hit any spots that look like they didn't get much seasoning. Everybody's looking pretty good. And we got a little bit left here. We'll just go ahead and add a little bit more to the top. And there you have it. Back in the fridge, this is going to go. And we're going to get the drum smoker fired up. And what we have here is some Royal Oak charcoal we're doing today, mixed with some Kingsford. And the same thing in that chimney right there. I got that about 3/4 of the way filled with both of those. And we're going to be adding some hickory wood to that. So we'll go ahead and get that kind of around the outside edges here, like such. And we have flame. Let's go ahead and get her dumped on in. Oh. And we'll get our restrictor plate in. I normally use a bowl of water. Today we're not going to do that because we're going to be using our cast iron Dutch oven. We'll go ahead and get our grates in. That way they can start getting hot. And they're already clean, but I like to get them nice and hot and get any excess fats burnt off and melted off before I use them. And we'll go ahead and get our thermometer in the top here. And I'm going to go ahead and leave the lid off of this for about 8 to 10 minutes. Let this thing start getting going. And then we'll get the lid on and we'll worry about dialing in our temp. In the meantime, let's prepare the rest of the ingredients for the stew. Okay, it's been 10 minutes. Let's go ahead and get the lid on. Okay, now I'm waiting for this smoker to... Our target temp today is going to be between 270 and 280 to do this. 275 would be perfect, so right around in that range. I'm going to wait till this thing gets about 285, and then I'm going to set my damper down below. And then we're going to really work on dialing this thing in. So that should just be a few minutes. And it's time, so we're going to go ahead and damper, and I need this to be about 7/16 of an inch, and we're close right there, and right there. Okay, let me go over the ingredients list here for this beef stew. So what we have here is a 1/2 teaspoon of salt, 3/4 of a teaspoon of just regular old pepper, 1/2 teaspoon of garlic powder, 1 teaspoon of crushed rosemary, 1/2 teaspoon of ground thyme, 2 bay leaves. We're going to have 2 tablespoons, roughly, probably heaping tablespoons of tomato paste, which I have in here. Right here, what I have is a dry red wine, and we're going to do a 1/2 cup of that. We have a big old container of beef broth that we're going to use. This is 48 ounces. We'll see how that goes. What I have here is 2 pounds of potatoes that I just kind of chunked up in probably about 1-inch chunks, roughly. I have 1 pound of carrots. In here, I have combined, I have probably 4 ribs of celery that I've cut up into chunks, and a 1/2 of a white onion. And we're going to put all that into this pot. Let's go ahead and dump this on in. This is going to be a nice, hearty beef stew. Let's go ahead and get our seasonings in. A little windy today, so we'll try to keep it all in there if we can. Our 2 bay leaves, which it looks like 3, but this one here is kind of in half, so we got 3 pieces there. We'll go ahead and add in our 1/2 cup of this red wine. Two heaping tablespoons of tomato paste. See if we can get that out of there, just like that. And last but not least, our beef broth. And we're going all out. We're going the whole 48 ounces. Go ahead and give this a stir. Try to get that a little incorporated. Okay, I want to try to dial this smoker in about another 20 more minutes. Things running hot today, so that Royal Oak got that thing fired up. But we're going to get that temperature to settle back down another 20 minutes. And then this is going to go on, and so is the meat. And I'm going to show you how I'm going to do that. Okay, it's time. Now, our target temp for our drum smoker is 270 to 280. Right now, we are 267. So we are right there where we need to be. Here's our chuck roast. What I'm going to do right from the get-go is go ahead and put this thermometer in here. So I'm going to go about halfway in and halfway up and go ahead and get that in there just like that. And then we'll go ahead and let's set up this drum. Now what I need to do is take this top level off real quick here. We'll just set that there. Get our lid off of our stew. And here we go. We're going to go right in the center right there. We're going to take our grate, put it back over the top of that. And the old chuck roast is going to sit right over the top, just like that. Let's go ahead and get our thermometer back in so we can monitor this like such. And we'll go ahead and get the lid back on. Now what's going to happen here is I'm not going to touch this for 2 hours. At 2 hours, I'm going to see where that chuck roast is at. I'm wanting about 150 degrees before we take that off, and then we're going to cube it up and add it to that stew. So we'll see you in 2 hours. And welcome back. It's been 3 hours. I'll have to admit, this is one thick chuck roast. I've smoked a ton of 3.5, 4 pound chuck roast, and I've never had one this thick. And it's put up a fight. I would have liked to gotten to 150 degrees, but after 3 hours, let me bring you in. We're at 128 degrees on the chuck roast, and our smoker, I said we are wanting to be between 270 and 280. We are now 285. So we are right there. And even though this chuck roast put up a fight, it doesn't matter. We're taking it out now. We're going to cube it up into approximately 1-inch cubes. We're going to stir our stew for the first time. It's been 3 hours. We're going to stir it, and we're going to add the meat back in, and then we're going to stir every 45 minutes until it's as tender as what we want. So let's get it off and see how it looks. Look at that. Woo-wee, that looks good. So I no longer need this thermometer. I'm going to go ahead and take that out. We'll set that here for now. Look at this bad boy. Look how thick that is. That is the thickest chuck roast, I'll tell you. I'm going to go ahead and take him off. We now have to take this off. And this is our first time getting to stir that stew. And ooh, does it look rich. Let's go ahead and stir it. Now it's got a ways to go. But when we add that meat in there and let it go a couple more hours, this is going to get tender. You can see it's nice and hot. Let's get the lid back on. Smells really good. First thing we're going to do is get this string off. That helped keep it together. Man, does it smell good. Get rid of that. Now what I'm going to do, like I said, is I want 1-inch cubes. So we're going to go ahead and just kind of eyeball. Now remember, this meat is not done by any means. Ooh, slippery. Oh man, I'll tell you what though. It's not bad tender-wise. Wow. Does it smell good? Okay, now we got our chuck roast slabs. We got about 4 slabs here. Now we're going to cube it up. So let's start with this one right here. And about every 1 inch, we'll go across here. That way. If there's any big pieces of fat, I'm going to go ahead and take that out because we don't want that in our stew. So we're just going to cube up into 1 inch pieces. And there it is. That's all the meat cubed up. Now let's get her in. And we'll give it a nice stir. Now we know this stew needs to go a while longer. And looking at another couple hours, and we're going to stir about every 45 minutes. So we're just going to let this keep plugging away. But every 45 minutes, we're going to stir until everything is as tender as we want. It's going to be at least 2 hours. It could be 2.5 hours. We don't know. We're just going to see how things are progressing because we want it tender. And it'll be well worth the wait. So, okay, it's been 45 minutes. Let's go ahead and open it up and give it a stir. Oh, yeah. And we know it's not done. We're just doing a stir. You can see it's getting nice and hot. Put it back down in there and get the lid back on. And in 45 minutes, we'll stir it again. Okay, it's been another 45 minutes. Let's go ahead and get the lid off, get it stirred, and see how it looks. Ooh, yeah. Now it's starting to look good. Get it nice and stirred. Ooh, yeah, look at that. But it's not there yet. Let's get the lid back on. And we'll see you in 45 minutes. Okay, it's been 45 minutes. Let's stir it again. And we're going to give it just a little longer. We'll see in just a little bit. Okay, it's been another 45 minutes. Let's start the thickening process. Let's take a look. Look at that. We're going to stir it. All right, so here we go. Let's start the thickening process. Because the meat is tender, the potatoes are tender, everything is tender. Everything is rich and exactly where we want it. So what I have here is a solution of half cornstarch and half beef broth. And what I'm going to do is going to mix this up. I'm going to add 2 tablespoons. Oh man, this smells so good. And now what we're going to do is going to check every 10 minutes. We'll see you then. It's been 10 minutes. Let's stir it. And we'll check it in about 10 more minutes. All right, it's been 10 minutes. Let's do this. And remember to get all your bay leaves out. That's the third one I was looking for. And we are close, guys. We are very close. We'll check back in another 10 minutes. All right, let's get this off. Okay, it's time. Look at this. Let's go ahead and grab a bowl. It's nice, it's meaty, it's steaming hot. And we're going to pair that with a rustic bread right there. All right, so before I sample this, and this has been going about 7 hours throughout the day, so this is great to do if you're doing something in the yard, if you got something project you're working around the house and you want to just throw this on. It's not a hard smoke. Let's just do a quick recap on what happened here. So we made a steak slash chuck roast rub that we put on the chuck roast, about a 4.1 pound chuck roast. We put it back in the fridge, let it sweat it out for a while we come out here and got the drum smoker going. Our target temp was 270 to 280, and I tell you what, this thing dialed in and it was right in there the whole time. After that, we assembled all the ingredients for the stew, all the potatoes, the carrots, the celery, all the seasonings, the red wine, all that stuff went in. When it was time to put it on, we put our Dutch oven of ingredients on, and then we put our chuck roast over the top. And then we let it go. We didn't even touch it for 3 hours. It was about 130 degrees, and we cubed it up, put the meat in, and then we stirred every 45 minutes. Once the meat and the potatoes and carrots were tender, we thickened up with a little bit of cornstarch and some beef broth. And then we stirred every 10 minutes for about 3 more times, for about 30 minutes. And now it's what we've all been waiting for. It's time to try this. And I'll tell you what, it has been smelling so good all day long. And let's go ahead and give this a try. That meat, I know, is tender. And the potatoes, if you come in and see this, everything is tender. The celery, the meat, look at this meat. So as you can see, it turned out really good. And you can pair it with whatever you want. I've seen people do mashed potatoes. I've seen people do crackers. What we did here was just some rustic bread. and we'll pair that with this beef stew. But until the next time when I see you guys, you can do this too. Next time I see you on Heat of the Drum.